What's up, y'all? All right, here we are today for Saturday Morning Nerd Out. I am Mezzo JD, just Mezzo if you want to call it short. Here on Kyber Cave Productions, almost said like K Peak Productions, like it came out kind of weird, but whatever. Guys, joining me this morning is the ever so wonderful, knowledgeable, and hilarious Bray Girl. Hi, my
Hi. Oh
friend.
my
She's my soul
gosh.
sister. This is one of those friends that like you start talking about something you're interested in, like, wait,
Yeah.
me too, me too, me too. Like, and so we're like, oh my gosh, we just became best
So,
friends.
yeah, either we're real basic or
Yeah, we're we're like super basic, or we're like it's like something super niche. It just
right.
depends. Which is it
Exactly.
just cracks me up so much. Hi Chris, hi Say Wong.
Hi
I hope you're
guys.
both doing well this morning. I'm doing pretty well. I never sleep well on Friday nights though, and that's because we do Pillow Fort Night with my kids. And so I was upstairs with my oldest, and my youngest was down here with my husband, and we do like a
Mhm.
sleepover, watch whatever they want, whatever kind of thing.
Oh,
And
that's
you just
cool.
don't sleep as well that way. And like usually, my normal sleep schedule is I'm asleep at like 11:30 p.m. On this night, I was up till 2 a.m. this morning.
Oh
What?
wow.
And I
Oh
was watching. I
that's
did a
actually
free.
me like every night. I'm always up till 2.
Oh, it's rainy, Chris. Sorry to hear. I mean, I'm not sure if you like rain or not, Chris. So there's. I'm not sure for there's those obscure movies that you grow up with that like you thought only you and your family watched, and then like I finally found like there was a movie I loved growing up called Rigoletto,
I
and
haven't
there's an
that's like
opera.
that's weird. I have not
Uh,
heard of that
okay,
movie and usually I'm
so
like, I know that
there's
movie.
an opera, but there's this one's just a movie, and it's actually I did not know this until a few years ago, but it was actually made by it's like a Mormon corporation.
Oh,
So
okay.
It's an LDS company, but the movie is not Mormon
Mm.
in itself. Um, and I it's about a young girl in like kind of like a depression era type very small town, and it's got aspects of Beauty and the Beast in it, but there's no like romantic thing in there. It She starts to learn to sing from this gentleman that lives on the hill, and
Oh
there's
wow.
a whole story with the town and why they don't like him and everything. And I loved it growing up because singing, as a lot of you know, is like part of me.
Yeah.
So it meant a lot to me growing up, and I had a DVD of it, but when we moved and everything, and DVDs aren't really a thing anymore, that like I can't find it anywhere. And I did find it on YouTube. It's super terrible looking though. It's like super pixelated. But
Yeah.
because I remember and watched it so many times, I know what happens. I remember the faces. Well, I did find like that company has all these movies on it, and they have an app, but it's a
Mhm.
paid for streaming service. So I did a 1 week free trial so I could watch the movie in better quality last night. So that's what I was up late doing. And I was so
Aw.
excited to watch it. And then my first thought was, this is the only thing I've ever seen these people in. So then I went down a rabbit hole of it, Googling all those people. And so now I feel like since it's something I found that you and I both haven't, we haven't both seen it, now I need to like movie night with you one
Right,
night.
exactly, because,
Get that,
that
make
has to
you,
be
have you,
rectified.
the free trial ends in 3 days. So like what you doing Monday? Anyway, all right. So to start, let me make sure I have my schedule up. To start our schedule off for today, I scrolled way far up for some reason on our Nerd Out chat. We are going to be talking about the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer. So, what did you think, Frey?
Well, so I loved it. Uh, but I loved the other 2 movies, and, I didn't adopt Ryan Reynolds. I know I have this habit of adopting, celebrities. But didn't adopt him because he's closer to my age, so, I feel that feels weird. So, but I just feel like he's like our nerd brother. He knows like what nerds want, what nerds need.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this trailer kind of encapsulated all that cuz we got like all this stuff. We got, classic Deadpool, Wolverine banter from like the comics, but it was a little bit spicier because the comics can't say as much as you can on the screen. And we already knew it was going to be R. They all have been R so far. If he could make it X, I'm sure he would. Like, I mean, that would
In
be
C17.
Well, no, I mean like actually go back old school
Oh.
and have it X-rated
Oh, okay,
because
gotcha.
X-Men
Oh.
X-rated. He
Oh.
would totally do something like that, but I don't think that they would let him do it. And then the whole like cocaine references scene was so funny, was just
It
hilarious.
was. It was pretty
It
much.
was so great. And I can't wait now. And we got to see Cassandra Nova. I was like, yes, even though I'm not a big fan of hers, like the character
Just the
itself.
fact that she's in it, like, that kind
Yeah,
of like,
because
the
that is a
storyline kind of
deep
thing.
cut. People like don't like if you haven't read the comics and understand that part, it's it's for the like hardcore
Yeah,
X-Men
if you
Deadpool
don't
fans.
know who Cassandra Nova is, she was kinda like an in utero telepathic twin of Charles Xavier, but he was so
Yeah.
powerful he, like, defeated her, but she ended up, like, surviving, living in the sewers and, like, surviving in a sense.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
when I hear like when I hear about, like, the background of a character that I'd never heard about, like, their comic background, I just like that would be crazy in a movie today. Like, that's something that just wouldn't, like, go as well, you know? So they always have to come up with, like, some kind of other
Right.
story, it feels
Updated.
like. Yeah, like, update it to be something that would make more sense today, I guess, than something when they originally made it. Because some like, you could never imagine today something surviving in a sewer and becoming Cassandra Nova, you know, that kind of a thing.
Yeah,
I loved
that's
it
kind
too.
of it's problematic, but yeah. But in a Deadpool movie, it totally makes
Yeah,
sense.
it does, it does.
So,
Because Deadpool's kind of like the get away with anything almost kind of a thing.
mhm.
And with Deadpool, there are so many things in my head that I'm imagining. Like, so they don't give a whole lot away about like the plot per se. Because this
Right.
one, like the first trailer was more like focused on the TVA stuff, but this one's like more about Deadpool and Wolverine's like adventure
Yeah.
together. And without giving much away about the actual plot, they did give a ton of hilarious moments. So you
Oh,
know, like
yeah.
it's gonna be so good. I do believe that at the end when they're jumping into the portal that it was altered, kind of like when Spider-Man No Way Home, they remove away the extra Spider-Mans, that they altered it so you can't tell where they're going.
Yeah.
Um, and who's opening the portal? I personally think it's Wong because he's
Me
everywhere.
too. Yes.
um,
I
and
absolutely. If it's not Wong, I'm gonna be disappointed.
yeah, me and I feel like because I love him. I
Yeah.
love Benedict there, and
Benedict Wong.
yes, I love him. And it was funny because yesterday, New Rockstars pointed out that it had been, what, I think, 5 years since Endgame came out. That was yesterday, was the 5 year. And it showed the moment where all the heroes showed up at the end, right?
Yeah.
At the battle. And what, what kind of, like, what would it take to recreate this moment again? And I said, if Deadpool went to that moment and we saw that happening from Deadpool's perspective, but he was like a fan going, yeah.
Yeah.
Like for some reason, I can imagine the character going, oh, like excited about like and the Avengers Assemble gets said again, and he's like super stoked about it or something. And kind of like in Harry Potter, where the characters saw themselves in the past and
Yeah. Oh,
like
with the
that
time
kind of different
turner stuff.
perspective. Yeah, like
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
different perspective. But I think it looks hilarious. And then that let's effing go part it's kind
Yeah.
of like it's a dual purpose. It's for them and for us. Like, because we're
Yeah.
so excited for it. We're like, let's effing go. I'm so excited for Deadpool, like that kind of a feeling.
Well,
And this
yeah,
is a Deadpool
and it
and Wolverine movie. It's a duo, so it's not just Deadpool.
right. Well, and it's bringing it's an ending for like that Deadpool, I guess, but it brings him into the MCU because this
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
first one that so I think that's great. And obviously it's a lot to play with. He's got more characters in the sandbox now because he gets to play with all
Yeah.
of them. So I do know that I'm like, there have been rumors there's going to be a lot of cameos. We might get a Chris Evans cameo, but he's not going to be playing Captain America. So
I think it'd be funny if it was like because a lot of people like don't really care for the first two Fantastic Four movies where he was Human Torch. If they pull
yeah.
like a Green Lantern joke,
Yeah.
it's in the Deadpool's. And Chris said that they had a great watch along on New Rockstar's break room with Evan yesterday. They did an Endgame watch
Oh,
along.
cool. Yeah.
So if you guys don't know New Rockstars on Twitch, they do watch alongs where if like you can watch because like especially if you've seen the movie, you know what's happening. But they watch the movie and they show their reactions, and you can watch along with them. So feel free to check them out. They're on Twitch, New Rockstars. Free plug for you guys.
Right.
Anyway, so all right, next on our docket is the Transformers 1 trailer. So show your thoughts on that, Frey Girl.
Well, I'm not a big Transformers fan as it is. Like, it wasn't my thing when I was growing up, so I wasn't really into cars,
So, like,
and especially robots that turned into cars. I was like,
I mean, they're not all cars.
I know,
but it's that kind of thing where like you're watching it, you're like, I bet that's great for those who are fans of it. Like, that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
I watched it with my husband, and I think it looks fun. I'm not like a gigantic Transformers fan. I really Chris is looking really forward to it, and I'm so glad to hear that. I've seen all the live action ones, I believe. But it was like nothing will quite feel the same as the first one. So I was actually fortunate enough. Wow, when the first one came out, my husband and I were at an anime convention. So this is like 15, 16 years ago, around there.
Yeah.
And we got to preview it before it came out.
Oh, that's cool.
And no, we did go see it again the moment it came out, because we were in like one of those rooms where like it's so packed with fans. Like there was like 5,000 of us, I think. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah, and there was the whole one shall stand and one shall fall part with Megatron, which are like iconic lines from the series. But everyone is screaming and so excited that you can't quite make out what's being said, but you knew he said that. And so it was it was like, just like when you're watching Endgame with a packed theater when all the heroes show up. It was that kind of fun nerd feeling where everyone who's a fan, like it's just pure fan excitement. And so like it was a great feeling then. Now I feel like the problem I have sometimes is like I feel like they overplay things sometimes. And so I feel like Transformers has been so done so much recently that I'm hesitant to be excited for it, I guess, because my excitement for the live action is kind of down a little bit,
So, but I this one I believe is animated.
So like, but even so, like storyline way in my head, I feel like my brain is so filled with Transformers from over the years that, and they got progressively not as great as the first one.
Well,
so
I like
my brain's not really
animation, because that's where
that
it
is
started.
Nice. Just like X-Men 97,
well,
which has been great.
Oh yeah, absolutely, it's been awesome.
It's the first animated thing that made me cry that wasn't Pixar.
I know. Well, I actually haven't cried because in the X-Men world, you don't really ever die. I mean, you die, but you don't really ever die.
I mean, that's true. I don't know a whole lot of the storylines of the X-Men. I watched the OG run when I was a kid, but I didn't watch a bunch of it.
Yeah.
And my husband knew that, so that's why we watched Eric Voss's like recap of the whole series.
That's cool.
But I remember all the characters and like who they were and stuff. But for whatever reason, when Rogue cried about Remy, I cried a couple tears. It wasn't like Pixar gives me a sob fest, okay, but this one gave me like a couple tears, and so there was a difference in that sense. But it was the first animated thing that wasn't Pixar that made me kind of cry. Or anything Disney related.
Right. Well, yeah, no, I mean, trust me, I've cried a little at stuff too. So don't. I was just like, no, it can't be. I'm not. I was in denial. So
I will cry watching Press Your Luck. So like I am a crybaby. Okay. I am like one of those people that's like, okay, so for those who believe in this stuff or whatever, I am what a lot of people call an empath, in the sense that I really feel what someone else is feeling in the situation that they're in a sense. Like whether I'm in the room with them or watching a video, if it's something relatively believable, I just like start crying.
Yeah.
I just start crying. I get so shocked, my husband will like stick a finger in my mouth because it's hanging open, like that kind of thing. All right. Okay, moving on.
Well, no, so on the Transformers one.
Yes.
So I am excited. So it's basically the story of Megatron and Prime. Yeah,
like the origin kind of story.
Yeah, it's like it's a buddy movie. It's like them being best friends.
It reminds me of Eric and like Charles Xavier before they were enemies at a time, and stuff. Yeah. And so it kind of made me think of that. Or like,
definitely.
Burr and Hamilton.
It has that. And then and Scarlett, so it's like Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, and I can never remember this guy's name, like Brian Tyree Henry or something like that. You guys will have to like double check me on that.
I didn't look at who was playing
But-
who. I forgot.
But yeah, they're
look at that.
voicing it, and it seems really fun, and so I think it might be more of like a Transformers buddy movie. So I'm definitely gonna watch it. I just
I'll
don't
watch
know
it
if I'll
too.
watch it in the theaters. I may wait until it comes on streaming, but
Yeah.
just because I kind of really do that for animation, because I don't watch a lot of animated movies in the theaters anymore,
and that's
since
fine.
my child is in his 20s,
Grown.
so
Yeah.
like,
Dude was quite grown.
yeah, he is grown. So that's that's it. But it looks cool. I saw the trailer. It looks neat. So
Nice.
yeah. All right, now let's move on to Phantom Menace.
So Phantom Menace, the 25th anniversary, they're re-releasing it in theaters. Do you think it will hold up from when it first came out?
Well, I mean, so I just hope that Lucas doesn't try to like redo all the stuff like he did for all the original ones, because I'm like, dude, just leave it alone. Leave it alone.
Well, I know is it supposed to be remastered and stuff
No,
like that?
no,
Okay, it's just a re-release.
Yes,
right?
it's a re-release.
Okay,
I think it'll be fun. I think now that we have Clone Wars and Rebels, and we've got Ahsoka and Mandalorian, and like all these things that have highlighted certain points about the, about, and Mandalorian, not really, because it's after like Return of the Jedi, but they all give new flavor to it. Like the Mandalorian.
Yeah, everything means kind of different
Yeah.
now. And I think one thing that is a good timing for it in a sense is after all this new Star Wars resurgence, especially the TV shows, I think there's a new appreciation for the prequels and stuff. I think there's a new appreciation for them that wasn't there when they first came out. Like the character Jar Jar Binks. Poor guy got taken to the cleaners, right? Like he was just, and the actor, poor guy, he was like taken to the cleaners, and then he got to appear, and he got to appear in Mandalorian and have like a redemption arc. And I think so many more people appreciate him now. And when they go watch the prequels, it won't be like it nearly as like feeling the same feeling, or it's just people have matured over time when it comes to movies and how they feel about characters too. So I mean, I'll definitely probably go see it. Because I mean, I did see those in theaters when they first came out. The originals. I'm sorry, I was not born yet. But I wish I could have. That would have been kind of cool.
No comment.
No comment. Anyway, all right. And being a Star Wars channel as we are, of course, we're going to talk about it. We might even have like our own kind of review video.
Yeah, I was gonna say I actually wouldn't mind seeing it in the theaters again. We watched some of like I watched all of those in the theaters, and I've seen. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys. You all know I'm immortal, so this is nothing new. I saw all of them in the theater. I've seen every single Star Wars movie in the theaters, including Rogue One, including like I've seen them all.
Well, yeah, I've just seen all but the originals. Mine was just all but the originals.
Actually, so the first one I saw in Houston, Texas, we had to wait in line for 2 hours to see this movie. And and then I didn't see Empire Strikes Back when it first came out, but I did see it in the theaters.
I can't act shocked about waiting in line because I waited hours and hours for Harry Potter. So
right, well, yeah, but back then there wasn't like you could order the tickets.
Yeah,
you had to wait in line for tickets, and you waited in line to get into the theater. And it wasn't as efficient as it is now. I mean, technology is fantastic and everything, but
when the Harry Potter stuff was coming out, it was like 15 years ago. The one, when you would wait in line, and the books, like you would just wait in line for hours and hours and hours, even if you pre-ordered, because so for those who weren't ever at a book release for Harry Potter, my husband and I went to a couple. You would go to Barnes and Noble, which is a bookstore, and you'd wait in line, even if you pre-ordered, because they had events happening. It wasn't just here's your book and you go. There was like trivia,
you went at midnight.
Prizes. Yeah,
you went before midnight event.
It was a midnight release, but you waited in line at like a 5 p.m. for these events that were going on, because it was more than just here's your book. It was like events happening, trivia with prizes and all this kind of stuff. If you were the first so many in line, you got free other stuff and whatever. So I thought that was
to one of those actually. When my son was really young, one of the books came out. One of the books came out while I was pregnant with him, and I read it out loud to him. And then while he was in utero, and then this is way too much since you all know who he is. But the next one came out. I think it was not the very last book, but it was the one before that, Half-Blood Prince, I think.
Okay.
And we went, he actually, thank goodness he was a night owl, but we actually went at midnight and got the book. The way that they had it where we were, because we lived in San Diego at the time, you could, like, if you pre-ordered the book, you could just come at midnight, and then they had this whole thing from like midnight to 6 a.m. where you could come and do all this stuff. And it was really neat. You could have pictures taken. So we have like a little photo, like a Polaroid photo of him in the little glasses. And he's this little tiny kid, like maybe 2 years old. And he's just like, it was really cute. And it was an experience I wouldn't change for the world. So I definitely want to go and do this Phantom Menace thing, because I think this is a big milestone for a movie to, especially a franchise, to be this relevant still, and this movie be 25 years old, which means that the other movies are way older than that, y'all. So
and now let me ask anyone in the comments, and you, Frey Girl, when you introduce someone to Star Wars, now that all this content is out, where do you think is the best place to start? Do you think release order or chronological?
I think release order gives you a bigger surprise for Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
So I would do it release order to get that surprise like everybody else did. Because if you watch it from Phantom Menace all the way to Empire Strikes Back, it's like, oh, that totally makes sense. Why didn't he know that? And it's like, no, you should see it the way that we experienced it. We all were so freaking shocked that Luke got a puppy that it was, I mean, that honestly, that the reason how I do it.
So the reason I ask is one thing that I haven't instilled in my kids that I hoped was the love of movies, right? They aren't huge movie fans. I have a 10 and 14-year-old that literally play games and watch some YouTube. And I'm my youngest, if I think about it, he hasn't really seen a Star Wars movie.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm thinking it'd be like a great opportunity to watch the OGs with him and then take him to the theater for these.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
So I think that would be a great, and it would be kind of fun. Here's my thought in my head, is to kind of make content out of it, in the sense that I'll get his reaction on video watching the OGs at home. And then I'm a big believer in not filming in theaters, so I'll get his reaction to the Phantom Menace like anniversary and stuff like that, and get his reaction after the fact.
Oh yeah, like an out of the theater reaction type thing.
Yes, like right after kind of a thing. Because I don't believe in filming in theaters. I see a lot of people who do that, and I just think that's okay. That's my opinion.
That's
okay,
not,
and legally,
I
okay.
agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you.
So I'm thinking that'd be kind of fun to introduce him to him and record him, and then show the pivotal moments, and stuff like that. Like, I am your father, and kind of stuff. I don't even know if he knows that Vader is his father, because I've seen some videos of somehow people who never found out, and then they're adults and watching it for the first time, and you see their reaction. It is the funniest thing.
Oh,
because
yeah.
I don't remember that moment in my life, finding that out. I think it was something I knew before I watched it. So it was kind of like, but if
anybody's watched Pitch Perfect, it's spoiled for them. So
he is not, my 10-year-old has not seen Pitch Perfect for a good reason.
Oh, good.
And the 14-year-old. So I feel like it'd be a good time to introduce him to it, because I don't think he knows. And so it won't be spoiled for him in that sense. All right. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's great. I think that's a great way to do it, because
I think, of course, we spent the most time on Star Wars.
Well, yeah. But
it's Kyber Cave. All right. So we have our gaming section now, and we're going to talk about Riven Remake. Now, Graveyard and I played the original Riven on Retro Alcove on the channel. So if you haven't,
that's why it looked familiar. Because when I
that's
watched the trailer, I was like, this looks kind of familiar.
So the trailer we watched was a gameplay trailer. There was a teaser. Now this is the gameplay. And there's one thing that's really cool. So the original, if you've seen any of the original point and click adventures in general, Riven included, the style was you click and you go to the next spot. You click
Mhm.
and you go to the next spot. There wasn't a free range moving around. This one has that. You can walk, you can look around, that kind of a thing, which, and everything, of course, it looks the same, but like new. It looks like a
Yeah.
renovated version of Riven, basically.
So it reminded me of your puzzle games that you play.
Yeah.
And so
It is. It was one of my originals that I loved when I was a kid.
yeah, and so I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, oh, Mezzo love this, and
Yes,
like the
yes.
whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, Mezzo love this.
Oh, and I played it. And it was like the original time I played it when I was a little kid. My neighbor across the street let me borrow it, and it was on like 4 or 5 discs on CD-ROM, like
Well, yeah,
long time
because-
ago.
yeah.
Because this is just how that worked. Like, for those of you who don't know, you'd have computers that the RAM was 256 megabytes. Like, it wasn't much of anything a long time
Right.
ago. But
I'm pretty
with-
sure my phone has more than that.
yeah, I know. Our phones are so much stronger than the computers we had 20 years ago,
Yeah.
30 years ago,
I'm glad
even.
they're bringing stuff like that back, because I feel like that's a missed opportunity and it's something that you can expand on. So I really liked watching the
things that
gameplay.
you wish those games could have done when the technology wasn't there for it, and
Mhm.
now it's there for it. So you can do that with these games, and a lot of these games were very niche and not like crazy popular things like Destiny 2 or Fallout, whatever. So this might reach more audience and get more people loving the point and click adventures again.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it. And for those who don't know, a lot of point and click adventures are very chill. So if you want something that just kind of chills you out and relaxes you, that'd be good. The one thing I do hope is improved upon the most, that hopefully they won't stick exactly to the original on this, is a lot of the older point and click games, even though it's a part of the charm, I call it a quirk, is that you would get lost because it wasn't always obvious what you were supposed to do next. Like, a lot of games now know how to make it obvious what you're supposed to do, but they make it hard to actually figure out the solution to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, then it was like you had no freaking idea what to do. You would get so stuck, and that's why Graveyard was there for Beard and Chair, because it was like,
no, where do I go? What do I do?
Yeah,
oh
like certain sounds tied to a puzzle, but it was like no way of knowing that, kind of a thing. So it was very obscure, and hopefully there's an improvement upon that. But even if there's not, it ain't gonna be real bad because I played it.
Well, the textures and everything, it looks amazing. It's so
does.
detailed.
It really does.
It gave me like a steampunk Egyptian Knights Templar type thing.
Gotcha.
But like
Okay.
steampunk. Yeah. So I was like, oh, this is kind of neat.
And
It's something
Chris-
that I was literally like, I might play something like this. So like
Yeah.
it made me want to play it. And I think
Chris
that's
said-
what they wanted you to think.
Are either of you familiar with the Quest for Glory series? I am not.
Mhm.
And that is now something I'm going to have to make a note on to look. Is it a point and click
Right.
adventure, Chris? Let us know in the comments and we'll reply to that when it comes up. It's a very chill game. It's very comfortable. The reason I think it gave the Egyptian vibe was specifically that room.
Yeah.
So-
and the scarabs. I was like, oh my
Yeah,
God,
the scarabs.
I
So
was like, why can't they be blue?
the series, starting with Mist, then you have Riven, which is Mist 2, and Mist 3. There's 4 and 5. And
okay, so it's part of the Mist series. So like I knew
yes,
about
it's part of the
Mist.
Mist series, and I don't know why they didn't call it Mist 2, but whatever. I think that's why sometimes people don't realize it's part of it.
Is it pre-Mist? It's
No,
your pre-gaming Mist. Is that what you do when you're in Riven? Pre-game Mist. Let's
it's a
pre-game.
sequel. It's just so it's these brothers created these books that lead to other worlds they created with real people and stuff, and you're traveling through them to try to save them, and not the brothers necessarily, but the worlds. And one brother kind of went a little boo, and so you're trying to like work through that. But sometimes I feel like the story gets a little lost with how difficult the puzzles were.
So
but-
it's like Cain and Abel meets Justice League
Oh,
Crisis on Infinite
that's-
Earths.
That's an interesting way to put it without like superheroes. All right. So moving on, we have our trap, which is a M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. He's a producer in his it's his movie.
Ding Dong's
This is
daughter.
his movie. His daughter plays one of his daughters plays the performer that the characters are going to see.
Oh, Lady
which I thought was
Raven.
pretty cool. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Lady Raven is actually one of M. Night Shyamalan's daughters.
She
And
did such a good job. I honestly thought that it was like
I thought it was a performer like we just weren't familiar with or something, or someone who was playing a performer playing another character that I just couldn't really recognize.
that part gave me like not Lady, Taylor Swift vibes.
It gave me Taylor Swift / Lady Gaga, like together, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So for those of you who hadn't seen the trailer, it's about a man and his daughter going to see a concert. Like he's taking his daughter to see this big concert, and he sees a police presence and asks like his vendor stall guy about it. And he says, "Oh, there's this like serial killer, and he's rumored to be there tonight." Well, you kind of find out Josh Hartnett is that serial killer. Like it's in the trailer. And but the thing is the Shyamalans are known for twist, right? So what's the twist? And recently, I saw Eric Fox's reaction, and his idea of a twist was something I actually like really agreed with. Was that you find out? I believe it was Eric Fox, but you find out like that's not this. There's another serial killer at this concert, which I found
it's not him. It's not him.
It's someone else.
Those
games are point. These games aren't point and click. Oh, okay, Chris. I haven't heard of those. We'll have to look them up. I think it looks interesting. I love Josh Hartnett's like resurgence. Because I love
him.
Though after Pearl Harbor, I know he did a couple things, but the biggest thing aside from Oppenheimer that he did recently was Penny Dreadful, which I didn't get to see. I never saw Penny Dreadful.
It's amazing.
And I don't even know what it's about. Like I just didn't. I know it's kind of weird. It's all I recall.
Well, I mean, it loosely takes its actual what it talks about from Penny Dreadfuls, and those were horror based. Like you just paid a penny, but they were all horror stories.
That's what they were Penny Dreadful.
Yeah, that's why it's called Penny Dreadful.
I thought it was like someone named Penny in the show.
Yeah, no, it's actually based on the Penny Dreadfuls that you would get in the Victorian age.
So were they like single standalone episodes? Or
no, okay, so there's an interweaving story, but the different characters actually kind of embody different types of the horror that was really popular back then. Like Dorian Gray's in it.
Okay. If you know who Dorian Gray is he wouldn't look at a picture of himself or he'd age. Like he basically become that picture. It's been a long time since I thought about Dorian Gray.
He has a picture that was painted of him, and the picture ages instead of him. If the picture is destroyed, then he actually takes on all the age that he is, and so that I actually it's so funny. I'm not a big horror fan, but I've actually seen and read. Like I loved reading horror books. And so I've read a lot of horror books, and I know about Penny Dreadfuls just because of I love history. I'm a history nerd, and stuff like that. So in comic books, like the precursors to comic books were kind of like the Penny Dreadfuls and like the serialized stories. Like even Sherlock Holmes before Arthur Conan Doyle did his did the books. They were actually in like serialized form. And so it was like the stories were serialized, and that was a big deal back then. People like read the serialized stuff, and so and they didn't have TV, so I think that's where TV comes from, like having that where you watch an episode each week and that kind of stuff. That comes from our society getting those serialized stories when they were in. Anyway, I could do.
And then
all of this.
Random thought on this. What is your opinion? This has nothing to do with traps. I'm gonna take off a thing. What is your opinion on weekly release of a streaming show versus dumping the entire season?
It depends for me. I feel like there are some like Fallout. We waited until all the episodes were released so we could watch them all on our time. We have
2 left still, so don't
we are on episode. I think we're on episode 5 now, so we have like 3 left. But then there are some that I don't have a problem with. Like we watch Shogun each week. Because I was like, look, I need time between these episodes. But then there's some where I'm like, no, I have to find out what happened. I have to find out what's going on. But I don't mind. Like, I watch Bad Batch weekly. I had no problem watching Mandalorian weekly. But
I think it depends on the viewer, like whether you like to binge or not. From a business standpoint, the only reason my brain thinks money-wise, if I'm thinking from like a corporate standpoint, is someone could do a free trial on a streaming service just to watch your show real quick and binge it and then end the free trial. So like that's the only downside I see to a binge thing. I like I would love binge watching. I can't. My closest my husband and I can get to binge watching is like 2 episodes a night if we can get that. Like
Well,
that's the
sometimes you
closest we
don't
can
have
do.
time,
It.
and
You
especially
just
like
don't.
with what we do, like there are sometimes like if they did X-Men 97 and they just put them all out, I would
Yeah.
watch the whole freaking thing like all
Yeah.
at once
Yeah.
because that's
And
just that's something that I feel like it has that sense of urgency where you're like, I have to watch this, I have to watch this.
yeah.
Fallout, you know she's going to be on that track for a while, so you're like,
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
watch this one and absorb it, and then go to the next one.
I
And
I think it depends a lot on not just the viewer what they like, but life situation. I have 2
Mhm.
kids, husband works full time, I own a business, and I work on YouTube and stuff. And so if we were just on our own,
yeah,
we probably would like request a day off of work and binge watch something, like that kind of a thing.
or you
But
just wait until your day off and you just binge
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Like
and then you
me,
just binge
yeah.
it together or something. And it's just, but unfortunately, we don't have that capability, and that's okay because then we get to spread it out and I feel like enjoy it longer in a sense. And okay, so we have one more horror thing to talk about, which is Watchers, which is the new Dakota Fanning. This one is M. Night Shyamalan's daughter directing, and he is producing. What did you think?
I thought it was an interesting concept. That was my thing, is because I was like, okay, so it's at first when I saw like the teaser part of it before I'd actually watched it, I was like, okay, so they're watching people. And then it's like, okay, well, who watches the Watchers? And I was like, well, now we're getting into Watchmen. And so I started watching it and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I didn't know where they were going with Dakota Fanning. And then I was like, okay, what's up with her? I think she might be a serial killer, but
That's not what happens.
yeah, but
Not exactly.
don't quote me on that. Oh, I still think she might be a serial killer and she just happened
Oh,
to get trapped in this. And what they're doing is they're actually watching these people to see what they do. And so
okay.
how they react to the stimulus and stuff. They're the rats trapped in the maze.
Okay, so they're experiments for
Yeah,
these creatures.
they're aliens experimenting on humans. He's done that before. There's gonna
Yeah.
be a twist on it, whatever it is. So I feel like it could either be like Night of the Living Dead type thing. And there was that whole like glitchy thing. So obviously obviously they were interrupting stuff so she could do it. And she's really attached to that bird. Those are the things that I got out of this. I love the actors. They all have such like, that's the thing that M. Night Shyamalan does, is he finds very interesting people, like very interesting actors that have interesting facial features or body quirks or different things like that. And he makes it so that you really want to focus on them. And that way you get distracted by what else is going on. And I think that's what makes him successful. I still haven't forgiven him for like the last 3 movies he's done that were kind of lame, but I'm willing to give it a chance.
Did you see Old? I didn't get to see that.
I didn't see Old because I already knew what the twist.
Like
as soon as I saw the trailer, I was like,
it was. I think the hard part is especially in M. Night Shyamalan. Credit to him for this though, like because it's a hard thing to do, and it's hard to try to keep up. Is to keep those twists going.
I wish that he would bring in other people to help him with that, just so that he's not, because he gets really not biopic,
tunnel
vision on like what he wants to do, and he doesn't understand that he's
others
really
could
good
bring
at
something to make it better.
At suspense. Yeah. He's really good at ratcheting up that level of suspense, and I think that's where he does his best work. But I'm always let down by the twist. Like, even in The Village, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I knew what the twist was because I was like, it can't.
You watch it when that twist happened, you're like, oh.
It's like, oh.
It was, yeah, you're like, oh, okay. I mean, like, it's a twist, but it wasn't as, it was very,
like
it was a little anticlimactic. But like, and that's funny was when Dakota Fanning's character is in the forest and they grab her and there's like a wall. I'm like, oh, it's like Village all over again. That's my first thought was.
Yeah, I was like, don't be doing the Village on us.
And I'm hoping he'll get a resurgence. I mean, I don't know if he just completely writes everything on his own. I haven't researched that at all, but I do wish that there would be like a few people involved that would help give him a variety of ideas, because let's face it, if I'm writing something, I may not be the only one with the best idea. Other people might have better ideas, and maybe that's an ego thing. I don't know. I don't
would
know
just
him
like people
whatsoever.
to
But
like read up until like right before the twist or right
and
up
then
to the
give
twist
ideas for
and
it or
see if
something.
they've figured it out,
Okay.
how long it took them to figure it out. And then if they haven't figured it out, just ask them, what do you think the twist is?
Like a test
And
audience and
yeah,
like a
like a
survey
test
afterwards.
just from reading the script. Like, just
Okay.
a script without like
Test readers.
any kind of directions, like any of the like in parentheses stuff in there, and
Yeah.
just say, okay, what do you think about this? Or what do what do you think the twist is? And then see, because there may be a better twist out there that it hasn't occurred to him.
Mhm.
And if other people see that, then he could do that. That would be kind of cool. And we know you watch us, so you can absolutely take that. And if you want us to be in like be a sounding board, we'll be happy to do that. We won't.
I'd be happy to
away.
sign an NDA, read the script, and then fill out a survey, and then not say a thing until after the movie is over, out and done. Or if it's like a never-ending NDA, whatever, I don't care.
Right? Perpetual.
I'm that person that like I don't want to be in front of the camera in movies. I'd like to be involved in making them. If I was in that thing, I don't like to be in front. I would like to be like, oh gosh, I love video and photography and stuff. I'd love to be in cinematography. Like that would be really cool. And work with those amazing cameras.
A few weeks ago, I was on the build with Phil over at Distance Nerding, and we talked to a guy who is a movie maker. His name's Kalani. I can't remember. Kalani Hubbard. Anyway, he does all of his own visual effects, and he like writes the movies and he directs them. And he usually has like a small part in it. And he and his wife do all of this stuff. And it was so cool to talk to him about all the behind the scenes stuff, because it takes really a lot to do that. So
the best thing about writing, directing, and being involved with visual effects, just like the Godzilla -1 director, he wrote it and he was the visual effects supervisor, is that there's like a perfect marriage, because if you're aware of what the other department has to do, it works better. And so honestly, I think it would better movies. And I know directors, I'm sorry if you have an ego about this, whatever, for directors, VFX artists, and writers to kind of do a seminar together on taking like a course on what each other does, so you can better understand, or like a collaboration seminar. Like directors and writers can take a seminar or watch a lecture and PowerPoint slideshow if they need it on what a VFX artist might need from you, and vice versa. Like and then writers and VFX artists, with the director, stuff like that, so that they can all understand a little bit more about what the other part would need, how to make your movie come out better in the end.
Or day in the life thing?
Okay, Frey.
Yeah.
Frey, we have some work to do. Let's start a seminar.
All right, let's
of something we have no actual experience in. Let's start.
We got this. We can do that. No problem.
I do hope it does. I do hope Watcher does come out to be better than the most recent ones. I know that the big movie maker with the shocks and craziness and stuff has been Jordan Peele with like Nope and Get Out and Us and stuff like that, which have all been the breath of fresh air in those is like an original storyline, because we know there's so many reboots and remakes nowadays, and so seeing something original like that is fun, even if it's like not necessarily the best storyline per se, or it doesn't make sense or wouldn't happen in real life. It's like it's shocking enough and original enough that it's fun and different and shocking too. All right,
the horror movies that are a little bit more off kilter. So M. Night Shyamalan was like a big thing for me back in his heyday, and so I'm hoping that he gets back there because of that. I would love to see a collaboration between him and Jordan Peele.
That would be really cool.
That would be so neat.
We all wish we could have the Drew Barrymore 51st Dates moments of seeing the Sixth Sense twist for the first time ever.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Because that was like, what? Like, you felt that. I feel like that was the biggest one that ever happened. And I think that was his first big movie.
Yeah.
Right. So We all wish we could have that moment, and so in a sense, we want that recreated in a different movie.
Yeah,
Have
and
that
it's
feeling
hard.
again.
It's also hard when you know a director and know like, oh, he's gonna twist
He's
it.
known for this, and so you're looking for it.
So, and
It's
that's why I'm like, maybe he shouldn't. Maybe it's not. Maybe it shouldn't be a twist at all. Like, I mean, don't
yeah.
twist.
The
That
twist
would be
is
the
that
biggest
there
twist of
is
all.
a twist.
It's a straight up what it looks like movie, and you're
I
like,
do have to
"What?"
say that with Trap, Josh Hartnett's like face when he's looking down at his phone at his victim, he's got like a slight smirk on his face, and I'm like, I'm looking forward to the most of his performance
Oh yeah,
because it was like greatly twisted, and he was a great in Oppenheimer. I really enjoyed it. I was like so excited. I was like, that's Josh Hartnett. That's Josh
yeah,
Hartnett. That's Josh
yeah.
Hartnett. Like it went
Yeah.
it went all through like he was one of those age like fine wines guy.
Well, and he
Grown so much as an actor too when I saw that
I'm
smirk.
glad he's shown a little bit more of his quirkier side
Mhm.
because they had him like pigeonholed into that. Well,
Heartthrob.
you're a heartthrob, and it was like he's so much more than that. And so I'm
Yeah.
glad he's doing all of this.
Yeah, it's hard when when an actor or an actress gets pigeonholed as a heartthrob or like sexy vixen and can't fit out of that mold because no one wants to offer them like the bigger part, a
Mhm.
more variety part. And so seeing him in something that's not just straight that made me very excited because for the longest time after Pearl Harbor, that's all people saw him as. And he was so much more. And I'm so glad to see him in different roles that are not that. And
Yeah.
honestly, it's like what's interesting too is that was the big thing at the time, right? Heartthrobs. And then the people who found him heartthrob then or have aged with him. And now, like seeing him in these new things, that's more attractive to me now.
Yeah.
Because of the maturity and aging along with things. And also it doesn't help when it comes to like the twists and stuff that audiences have also become mature and more smart or smarter about storylines and what to expect. So it's hard because the writers and directors and stuff have to be smarter than the audience for those twists to really make sense. All right.
Or like go back and do something that hasn't been done in a while because we're not expecting that. So
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, but let's move on.
Okay,
We can talk about Josh Hartnett all day long.
And the funny thing too is Josh Hartnett's character. What does his character do for a living? Does that tie into why it's a twist? In a sense,
Right.
is he a detective in the movie? I don't remember seeing anything about his profession in the movie, so like that would be kind of funny. How did they get
be the IT guy for the serial killer?
Yeah, and how did they get the rumor that he was going to be there? That's one thing I really want to know. Is what does that and is it that his daughter knows and she's the one who told the cops? I mean, like you just never really know. Or does he have some kind of secret friendship relationship with the singer and she's the one who said, "Hey, we'll find out." All right. So last thing on our docket is the nerd out, which is me. I'm not going to solo lay out myself for this one. But it's funny that we kind of like I mentioned Fallout earlier because I decided we would talk about Fallout a little bit because I decided that even though I haven't seen the last two movies, I have seen I've only ever played 76 a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But I've watched the entire playthrough of 4 and I it's like basically you don't have to see the whole show to see the connections between the two. And so I'm here to nerd out about how awesome the show has been. All right. So if you have not heard of it, okay, for those watching, here's a basic description of the Fallout video game series. Picture the US in like a 1950s aesthetic with futuristic things like robot servants. And so in some aspects, the world before the war that takes place kind of reminded me of the animated show The Jetsons.
Yeah.
A lot. So when it comes to the feel of it, but the difference is that it's like Jetsons with there's a pending feel of doom going to happen. So and in this series, there's a nuclear war and bombs were dropped like all over the US. And your character is from a line of wealthy people that paid to be saved, and you lived your whole life in a vault deep underground away from all the radiation and such. And you venture into the surface and each game for like various reasons. And you discover what the world on the surface is like now with mutated animals and humans who somehow survived all this time. And you come to find different locations with factions of humans that have formed over all the lands of the now dystopian former US. And like I remember like at least in the show too, they talk about like their purpose of living in the vault was to one day recolonize America. In a sense. One of the
Oh
iconic
yeah,
items,
yeah.
yeah, one of the iconic items from the game is the power armor. It's unmistakable with its clunky appearance and large frame. These were made by the company Westech, which is like in the game in the show too, a defense contractor in conjunction with the U.S. as like a pre-war product for like weapons of protecting you and that kind of thing. And this armor makes you more powerful and protected against enemies and outside elements like radiation. The game is brutal in its story with a variety of storylines over the vast landscape, like the different factions, and you venture out and you can make your own story with your own choices. Now, this is Fallout. What I'm going to reference to is from the video game Fallout 4. There is a YouTuber named Zisto. Okay, he's one of those gamers that will play a game all the storylines as much as he can. So if you want like a really good, long, but very thorough series, check out Zisto's YouTube, which is Zisteau.
Okay.
I believe he's Canadian, and he will play a game like no one's business. When he really gets into it, he will play it hard. The reason I think he didn't do 76 and why a lot of people, and me included, hadn't really played it was when it first came out, there was a forced online option. Like you could not just play single player by yourself. And there were a lot of trolls just killing you for the fun of it. And if you accidentally killed someone or you didn't realize you were in someone else's base and you took something, you'd have a bounty on your head.
Yeah.
And people get paid to kill you. Like it was a pain. Now I have heard it is 10,000 times better. I am contemplating on going ahead and downloading it and playing it for some content. It is 94 gigabytes of download, which is huge.
That is a lot.
So if I think about it, I'd probably like download it, play it, back up my save, and then take it off the computer.
Right, yeah. There you go.
Because it's just such a massive download. And so now this epic game series has now been made into a TV show that captures so many aspects of this game while telling a compelling and unique story. One thing about when you're playing as your character, you really don't have much of a background per se. Like you're kind of, it felt like when I played 76, I played like, I don't know how many hours of it was. But it was kind of you're just a character and you start, you don't have a name, you're kind of just whatever. So not to not reveal too much, because I still have 2 more episodes myself to watch. With a short preview before the war is how the show starts, and then immediately into how and then immediately to how many of the games do. A person who has their whole life spent in a vault has to go to the surface for some reason, and you meet several characters who are all interesting. And aside from the main storyline, there's also one taking place that is also captivating and reminds me of the suspense I felt when watching the TV show Lost, when you learn about the others and the experiments and Dharma Initiative and stuff. So I had that, and this is a storyline that I'm, without revealing too much, that takes place in the vault. And to me, I am actually kind of more excited to learn about that. And if you guys don't know, Blind Maggie was her name for Deadpool. She's also in the Fallout TV show, which is really cool. She's one of the overseers. She's Betty. Yeah, Blind Owl. Thank you. She's Betty. She's Betty.
Yeah, Leslie Uggams.
Thank you. Wait, that's Leslie Uggams?
Yes.
I didn't look up her name. Oh my gosh. One of my favorite songs to sing when I was doing singing lessons was sung by her. She was on Broadway for it.
Yeah.
And that's Hallelujah Baby.
Did an interview about how every couple decades she likes to reinvent herself. That's
blown my mind. Like there's a song I remember. So my singing teacher had me, this is like 20 years ago, like 15 years ago, was having me sing it. And I loved the song, and I went and watched the original, and she sang it like on Broadway on talk shows and stuff. I'm so blown right now. Okay, that makes me more happy. That's hilarious that she's in Deadpool now too. All right, and oddly enough, from Lost, the character Ben, who was played by Michael Emerson, also appears in Fallout.
Yeah, he does. There's a lot of interesting.
And I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I've adored this actor for a long time, so I was really happy to see him in this. If you want another show that he's in, oh my gosh, I'm blinking on the name. It's with Jim Caviezel too. Gosh, it was a show of.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Person of Interest.
Yes, thank you. I know Person was in the name, and I couldn't think of it. Person of Interest. It's a good show. If you want to see it, go watch it. It's about a man from the military who's kind of homeless and depressed and stuff. Kind of gets hired by Michael Emerson's character, Mr. Finch, because he's got access to this like AI that can predict when something's about to happen or whatever. And it's not Minority Report at all, not like that.
No,
But
no.
it's very good. I really enjoyed that. I wish that Taraji P. Henson could have been in it longer, honestly. So, and also for the iconic items in the game, like the power armor, the Pip Boy, which is your personal information processor, and others appear in the game regularly. The Pip Boy, yeah, is like a computer on your wrist that helps with things like reading radiation levels. And in the game, it's how to craft items. In the show, it's like she's looking at a map with like a tracker and stuff like that. It's kind of like your all-in-one PDA on your wrist.
Oh, it's like this.
It's very similar, but it has
But
that
it's on
old
your
Matrix.
wrist.
It's on your wrist, and it's just a black screen with green, Matrix green, like everything you
It's
see.
like
Is
if
very,
you had a DOS iPhone.
yeah, and what's interesting too is like with all the futuristic stuff, their TVs in the game we're just not futuristic.
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
very,
yeah.
like I said, 50s aesthetic and stuff. I want to check the comments real quick. You got Chris Ben, person of interest. Yes, thank you, Chris, so much for letting us know that. I didn't see the comment until just now because I had it on overlays. And so I loved that show very much. Okay, so the show has shocking moments, hilarious moments, and ones that are action packed. All like that's all great in the show. As a fan of the game, you can tell the writers, showrunners, etc., are fans of the game as well and are able to pull off a great storyline as well as pulling off fan service at the same time. So you're watching it, and as a fan, like you get really excited. I think being a fan of the game makes you appreciate the TV show more, but I think the TV show itself is also a great standalone.
Yeah, because I haven't played any of the games. I know about the games because I've had significant others who have played the games. Actually, we were watching an episode yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and husby was like, "Oh wait, I don't think I ever found my child." Like in one of the games, he was like, "I need to go play that because
Like
I need to
for,
find my kid."
for example, the iconic Fallout Boy like character with
Yeah,
the blonde guy
boy.
they kind of give where that came from in the
Yeah.
show. And so like I thought that was really fun. So if you want to see it, the TV show is available to watch on Amazon Prime Video and Freevee, which I actually haven't really heard of. All the episodes were released at once, pretty much.
Mhm.
Like you can watch them all at once. So you can take that mental health day off of work that you've been needing and watch the world burn.
Exactly. And then
The
see what
cat
happens after the world burns.
Yes, and then the cast consists of, as previously mentioned, Michael Emerson from Lost and Person of Interest, Kyle MacLachlan, known as from the original Dune, who played Paul, and
Yes.
Twin Peaks, Ella Purnell, who was actually in Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children and Yellow Jackets.
She was
Um,
also in Belgravia. If you guys are
okay,
like history, like not history,
not
but like, historical dramas
oh,
fans.
okay,
Because I watched the whole first season of her, and she was in it. And it didn't occur to me until we watched part of Fallout, and then I saw her in an interview and she was speaking with her British accent, and I was like, that's the girl from Belgravia.
Night
So
Vision.
yeah.
You watch the news just for that. And then it also has Walton Goggins from Justified the Hateful Eight. He plays a noseless cowboy, aka a ghoul.
Yes.
And it's interesting because like when you pause a show like on Amazon Prime, it will show who the actors are and who they play like on the pause screen.
Yeah, the extra.
And yeah, and if you see like Walton Goggins as the character he played as before the war and as the ghoul, they will credit it separately on the screen.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I found kind of interesting. So I'm like, maybe it's their way of saying how, because you watch him as like the human and you see he seems like such a great dude, but then as the ghoul, like, it's been a while, he's completely different. So are they treating him as like a death of one character and birth of another kind of
It
a
may just be
feeling?
one of those that because of
Because
something
it
in
looks
his
so different
past,
too.
he changed,
Yeah.
like his whole way of thinking changed. And so now he's not. It's like if you ever watched Preacher, we were talking about this, husband and I, that there's the gunslinger in that. And it's like you get to see what happened to him that made him the way he is. And I think
Okay.
that may be what we're seeing. Now, granted, I'm not as far into it as you are. I think I'm like one episode.
I just one
behind
episode.
you.
Yeah, it's just one
Yeah.
episode different.
But
But his
I loved
the
it.
difference too is like he's so during the present and the past, his characters are so starkly different looking too that maybe that's why.
Yeah.
I do think his character is really interesting. All
I
of the
love
characters
him
are
so much.
interesting. I did love, and I can't remember the actor's name, the cameo of, I think it was in the last episode, so I'm not going to tell you. It's a dude. I'll just tell you this much: it's a dude sitting on a couch that you'll see at one point.
Oh, okay. All right.
And so it's something that you've seen before, but you can't always place him right away.
Okay.
Well,
Well, like Michael Rappaport was like was Knight Titus.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
hilarious. The moment the helmet came off, we're like, hey, my husband, it's Michael Rappaport. We're like, yeah.
Well, and then Michael Williamson from Forrest Gump, he was in that.
Oh
first episode
yeah,
he was. Yeah, so like they got all these people.
Yeah,
like,
we're
just
like,
to
hey,
do these like one
the
episode.
cowboy.
Yeah, it was so
Yeah,
cool.
and so this one's also kind of a one-off type of situation.
Okay.
He's just one of those guys who are like, hey, that's a guy from like that who played a little character in this and this and this. Like he's always a little side character for an episode of a TV show.
That's awesome.
And so I think it's definitely worth a watch. But if you're not into stuff that's brutal, don't. Like if you're not a brutal, like they're, especially like my mom would hate it. Like she would not enjoy this. And neither would my husband's mom. But but someone like, I guess myself, like, but maybe it's not necessarily generational too. Obviously, Leslie Uggams being in the show, who's also great. She's really great with subtle things in her face that speak loudly. Yeah. So I'm so excited that it's Leslie Uggams now that I didn't even realize where the actress's name was, and that's hilarious.
I had to look it up because we had watched Fallout and then watched the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer.
Oh,
and I
okay.
was like, is that the same actress? And so I looked it up. And I was like, oh, Leslie Uggams. Okay, great. And so, and then I was like, oh, that's awesome. So that's how I knew.
I very much am, so like my mind is just kind of blown about it. I'm still kind of reeling because
I'm so glad we could have that reaction live.
Yeah. Mezzo's mind is blown because of the song she used to sing. I still know it really well.
Musings/mind blown.
Yeah. Mezzo's mind blown. Like that's another name for it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for Nerd Out this morning. Leslie was also in American Fiction Chris's, which I don't know what that is.
It's a movie that was nominated for Oscars, and it came out like last year, I think it was like November or December. I want to see it because I love Jeffrey Wright. I didn't know that Leslie Uggams was in it. Yeah, he's like the main character in it. And
okay, so
he was nominated for an Oscar for it. So.
If my father-in-law was still living, he would have made sure we saw it. He was like one of those huge Oscar fans. Actually, he and his wife my in-laws went to the Oscars a long time ago.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
They went as seat fillers.
Oh, and that's so cool.
I've seen it. They still have the invite and like the menu and all this kind of like stuff they kept from it, which is really cool. It was like the thing they got for it is like black velvet with a golden Oscar statue on it, and really cool. So I have to I'll let you know later, but I have to double check what year it was.
Oh, that's cool.
But they said that my mother-in-law loves to tell the story about the funniest thing is that when they pulled up in the car, everyone's like, oh, and they get out and they're like, oh. And they couldn't help but bust up laughing because they were like hoping it was a celebrity, and it was just a couple of people who were seat fillers that you still get to like walk the carpet.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really fun. And so like I love like when I went to the reason I thought of it too was it's in their like, you know how everyone has an important documents folder in your house, and this is in theirs. It's like an important documents folder, like along with passports and birth certificates. It's in that folder. And I was looking for something the other day for my mother-in-law, and I found it, and I was like, "Oh gosh, that was such a good story." And so I'll double check later today if I remember and let you know what year it was.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Just because I can't remember how long ago it was. It was quite a while ago though. Anyway, all right. Rest in peace, my wonderful father-in-law. He passed away 9.5 years ago. All right. Thank you for joining us for Nerd Out this morning. Don't forget to check out Saber Rattle, which is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And we also have a new show that we have 9 episodes recorded of. Well, no, kind of. We recorded 9 episodes of The New Order, but we did have an issue with a couple of episodes that we're going to have to kind of work around, or reenact maybe, or something. We're not going to tell you which ones. See if you can figure it out.
Right. see what you missed and tell
Yeah.
us what you think.
Yeah, see what you missed. Tell us what you think of what we've like. Mezzo here is the one who messed that up. I had like a week of grieving from it because I just like was really bummed about it. But we're gonna reenact those episodes, so to speak. Bye, Chris. Have a wonderful day, and you guys have a wonderful weekend. We'll catch you all later. Bye.
Bye.